I am EC3. I am E-Man.
This guy continues and continues to amaze me.
I'm the greatest wrestler in the world.
I'm pretty sure Ishii is held together by cement.
I wasn't supposed to win championships and get to the top of every company I've ever walked into, but I have.
This has to be one of the greatest matches I've ever watched in my life.
Because the Bullet Club, we rule the world. Kalisto or not Kalisto, you're out of here. Because Rusev, the era of Rusev is back. And I'm here to be the longest reigning United States champion in the history of the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the mat.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leeser.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling Max episode 196, part 1. And we are the Wrestling Fan Podcast, and we are brought to you by the WTO Network and in partnership with ForumMania.com and Last Word on Sports.com. Gary, take it away.
All right, guys, we are talking Monday Night Raw. This is the fallout from Extreme Rules. A lot of things happen tonight that you're going to be interested in if you have not actually got a chance to see the entire show. And if you have, hey, just follow along with us and kind of give you an idea of what we think. And we're going to kind of go down and maybe predict the future with Money in the Bank because there's some qualifiers here for Money in the Bank. We're going to get into. Plus, we are going to talk about some New Japan stuff going on in the world of New Japan, some big shows. And, of course, we'll be talking more this week about those as well. And we really have some big news topics that we got to jump into. I want to call him Stardust, though he's not Stardust. It's actually Cody Rhodes. And Adam Rose have both left WWE. They've been granted the releases. And, of course, we have some TNA news for you. Nothing just giant, but very interesting when it comes to Pop TV. You're going to want to hear all this news and more. So stick around with us, guys. But, man, here we are, guys. I mean, we did a giant show last night. If no one has heard it, you need to go check it out. You may say, well, hey, I've already watched the show. Go check out the show anyway because it's not just us three. We also have our great guys over at Wrestling Unwrapped joining us. And plus, we have Tom Reese on that show as well when we broke down Extreme Rules last night. So go check out Wrestling Unwrapped to the max. That was a lot of fun. It's just, if nothing else, go check it out for entertainment reasons. Trust me, lots of laughs, lots of interesting theories on what happened in Extreme Rules, and maybe a little extra talk, too, that you hadn't heard. But guys, I mean, we had a big show last night. I hope you're excited about tonight. I mean, Paul, it's been a pretty crazy 24 hours. How have things been going for you?
I'm all right. I'm a little worn out. Finally getting over the flu and everything and all that stuff. So, I mean, I went out and went bowling today, and then I was taking a little cat nap while we were getting ready for the show, too. So,
hey, you need to get the rest. I'm glad you were able to kind of hopefully get a little refreshed and get your brain going for this whole show. And I'm glad you got to get out, man. I was being kind of worried. You've been missing a lot of work, and I'm glad you were actually be a part of your bowling league. That's really cool, man. Sean, I mean, you've of course had a pretty busy time. I know you're getting ready for a lot of different things, but your daughter is going to be going to kindergarten or pre-K. I forget which one is it.
She's already in pre-K. She's going to kindergarten. So.
Man, I can't believe it. Already going to kindergarten. So, did she actually take her test? I know we talked about it, but did she complete her testing?
Yeah, she took her test. She decided to wake up right about now.
Oh, boy.
She's having a little attitude problem. She's in that grumpy mood where she's awake and,
yeah,
I think
I know how that is.
Yeah, so you might hear her get upset. So
don't worry.
But I mean, it's kind of stuff's been going on. I apologize, I'm behind on actually writing reviews for the Best of Super Junior stuff, but I'll on that, I think, tomorrow after I get home from work. But other than that, just, trying to get into the groove of things,
Exactly. It's difficult, especially when we have big pay-per-view weekends for us, because we do the show, of course, on Sunday night following the pay-per-view, and then, of course, all the things that get put off from Sunday night, and then we do a show on Mondays now on a regular basis. There's a lot going on with us, so, if we, seem a little tired or maybe out of it sometimes in the show, that's why. We got a lot of things going on right now, and pay-per-view weekends are always tough. But, let's go ahead and get into this thing, guys, and we got a lot to talk about here. Like I said, Monday Night Raw, there's a lot of big things going into, the next pay-per-view Money in the Bank that we're going to get into. So let's go and do it. Let's talk Monday Night Raw.
Alrighty.
WWE Monday Night Raw.
Alright. Raw was live from Baltimore, Maryland, on this evening after Extreme Rules. And, the storyline was, we talked about it on the Extreme Rules show that, this, obviously Money in the Bank is a big pay-per-view for WWE. And they made it a big deal. Straight from the top, they let you know, even on the pre-show, okay, we're having all these Money in the Bank qualifying matches, and that was the bulk of the show. But the main, the other storyline going through, which really wasn't a story because they kind of set it up in the beginning, and you kind of know where we're headed now with Seth Rollins coming back at Extreme Rules. He comes out, and immediately they decide. Seth Rollins sort of plays like he's going to accept the fans. The fans are very receptive to him being back, and, he even throws the line out there that, did you guys miss me and stuff? And then he immediately turns it into a heel promo. And so it seems like WWE wants him to be heel Seth Rollins instead. I got it from the crowd that it wasn't a total 100% positive, like, we're all behind Seth Rollins either. And this is in that northern part of the country, this is in the northern part of the country. I can imagine when you go to other places it may even be more, may have been more boos had he not already done this. But do you think that this is the right move at the end of the day? Or do you think this is WWE kind of just not wanting to put Reigns in any kind of position where he's not the face?
This is a tough one. When Seth was around before the injury, you had guys like us cheering him, but you had most of the people in a building booing him for the most part, And now coming back, and I think what has happened since he's been gone with the Reigns push being turned to 12, and sort of getting into the position that he's in now, you're going to have a tough time, I think, getting Seth to get booed. And to his credit, I think he did his part here to get people to boo him. But WWE's not going to turn the page on Reigns yet. They're going to let this one ride. It's the reason why I think a certain person's going to be walking out with the Money in the Bank briefcase that we'll talk about later. Simply because he's probably the best heel on the roster right now, in my opinion. So,
this is interesting because of the fact that, we know that Seth Rollins was a guy that, was one of the better heels when he was the champion. And now coming into this, he's trying to continue on with that. We all knew, WWE knew that he was going to get a giant pop when he came out for that first time, especially when he was actually going to be speaking on the mic or doing something. And it happened exactly just like that. People were very excited to see him. He was able to kind of get them to start booing with a normal formulaic, I don't care about you people kind of attitude. It's okay. But the Roman Reigns thing, I just kind of what Paul said. I mean, they're working to do their best just to continue on with Roman Reigns as long as they can. And then if down the line they figure out that, hey, this is just never going to go anywhere, never going to work to the level we want, maybe they'll flip him then. But right now, I like Rollins. I like the fact that he jumps back into this picture. It only makes sense. He didn't lose the title. He just had to, hand it over because of an injury. It's all good. I mean, this all worked. I think Seth Rollins did a great job here. It's just classic, really, Rollins. It's nothing better than he's ever done, but it's good.
Yeah, I agree with you. There wasn't anything like totally stand out. Like I think we'll get, and that seemed mixed too. But I think we'll get a little bit. I guess we can go ahead. We don't. This is part of what we're doing here. We're not going to be tied down. I get it. Hey, look, I get it. We're coming on after Raw, and I know there's people that the next morning you're kind of looking for those shows that are really going into it. But hey, there's a million ways to talk about a show. And at the end of the day, you can go read a report and find out exactly what happened word for word. We're giving you our thoughts after we've seen this show. So, we're gonna kind of do it this way. There's ways you can voice your opinion. You can hit us up at Wrestling2Max on Twitter, WrestlingToTheMax@gmail.com. You can go join the Facebook group, which is just easy to find. Go to Facebook and search Wrestling to the Max. You can go join the group there. Over 1,000 strong right now. And voice your opinion there about whatever. So if you want to let us know, I like the way y'all did it before, or whatever. And we're always open to things. Just we go from one promo here with Rollins, which at the end of the day, Roman comes out, and then Shane just basically makes your main event for Money in the Bank, which we kind of already knew this was going to happen, right? It's all about this. Okay, he's the champion that never lost his title, so he's going to go against the current champion to get his title back. Makes total sense, and you get your Money in the Bank main event set on the day one, so now you have an entire month to build to it. I think that's smart. But you go from one promo, which maybe you guys were talking about, it's not the best thing maybe he's ever done. And then you have another promo by a woman, the women's champion, in Charlotte. And this is it seemed to get a bit of a mixed reaction between our group, other groups that I happen to inhabit when Raw is going on, and on Twitter. It was a bit of a mixed reaction. There was a lot of people that really enjoyed it. It was really effective to them. I thought it was very effective. I thought it was one of the best things we've seen the women do promo-wise in a long time, just from what it makes you feel. And what I'm talking about here is Charlotte, Dana Brooke, and Ric Flair coming down. Ric Flair kind of telling Dana thank you, and then kind of basically setting things up for Charlotte. And Charlotte just tells her dad, you know what, I don't need you. And then goes on to freaking basically just run him through the mud and tell him about everything that they went through when she was young and how he wasn't there and all this stuff. And she almost lost the crowd for a bit because she got a little bit too into them doing the what thing to her. And I thought she did a masterful job of taking it from we're whatting you because we don't care to stunned silence to the fact that they couldn't believe what was going on. And that isn't something that everybody can do. And I think that just shows you how much she has grown as a character and all that stuff. And I mean, I know what you guys thought, but like I said, just kind of seemed like either people weren't into this or people were super into it. Where do you land on that?
I think that she did a good job with the banter with the crowd. I mean, to an extent, I think that now there is a part of me who says she, like you just said, and acknowledged it a little too much. I think she could have toned it down a little bit. I do appreciate the fact that she is acknowledging him, though. That shows that she's learned, that she's kind of got her feet underneath her when it comes to interaction with the crowd. Now, when it comes to this promo, when it comes to running down her dad, I'll say this. I thought she started going in a great direction and you could kind of see where it was going a mile away, but at the same point, you felt like it was important. And then it seemed like she kind of stumbled, not really through her words, but the direction she was going in, and then try to go back in the direction of, Dad, I don't need you. Get out of my ring kind of thing. I loved the perspective of her talking about her as a child and the fact that her dad wasn't there for birthdays, for any special occasion that they had, holidays. See, the reason I'm saying this is because after she says that, she praises him because she says, well, it made you the man, just like I'm the woman. It made me a champion today because of all that work you did. Oh, by the way, you're a bad person. Get out of my ring. I don't like that. She should have stuck on the whole, Dad, you were a crappy father. You never were there. I can do this job better than you. I can be a parent if I ever want to be a parent. Or she could have said something like that where you didn't know how to do it. You weren't good enough. I am the person. I'm the woman. I know how to do this right. I'm going to do everything you did, but do it correct. I wish she would have went in that direction instead of saying, well, then, Dad, you were great, but you're not. That kind of bothered me. I don't know, Sean. I don't know if you.
I think people would have lost it if she didn't keep it to wrestling in a way. Like, it's one of those where obviously you know that she is nowhere near at any point right now what her. There's probably almost nothing she's going to be able to do to get anywhere near eclipsing what her dad did. I mean, we're talking about one of the all-time supreme legends that when you're putting a Mount Rushmore together, you have to consider putting him on there. We don't know what Charlotte's going to do, but probably going to say with about 75% certainty it's not going to match that. And so it's one of the, I guess it's almost like a cheap heat situation. So I don't know. What do you think, Paul? Like that's one of those hard things to do, right?
Yeah. Because obviously you don't know where the future's going to go. For all we know, she could end up with more title reigns than Trish Stratus, and you have to figure out, well, when it comes to women's wrestling in WWE, she's certainly, on that Mount Rushmore or whatever. My thing with this promo, though, one, I felt like it went way too long. Rick meandered his part until we got to the thing, or to his point where he tossed it to Charlotte, and then Charlotte started strong, meandered some because I think the crowd was sort of getting to her, and she seemed to want to make it a point to make sure that she was going to put them in their place, which I felt took way longer than it should have. And then you get to the part where she sort of meanders back to the start, and ultimately I think the context wasn't what it should have been. There's some great lines in here. There's like a skeleton, I think, of a great promo. But ultimately, I don't. The result is right. The part of getting to that result, I have a lot of problems with. Mostly, she should have tried to bring up that Rick was trying to live vicariously through her and all this other stuff. And she sort of hits on that with certain lines, but the whole diatribe doesn't really flow towards that direction. From starting with, "You're this to me, you're that to me, and now you're this to me and that to me, and this is for all the crap you did to me." For making me watch you on TV for 30 years instead of being in my life, and now you're trying to live through me, and that was great, but now I'm better than you. And the solidarity of the promo wasn't there. But ultimately, I have no problem with the end result, because I think Rick getting out of her matches and putting more of a focus on where she's at right now, with what she's trying to accomplish, and Dana Brooke, of course, being there, probably is going to be a much more interesting character than somebody who's just trying to get heat because her father is Ric Flair,
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And it is what you kind of said here as well, is it's the way she came about it. I think the back and forth was not needed. I think what I mean by back and forth was kind of what I was making a point about earlier. Oh, Dad, you're good, you're this, but I think you're terrible. But then I think you're great, but you're terrible. I think it should have definitely graduated from, this is why you're awesome, Dad. This is why you were a good, performer. You're the 16-time champ, but you were never there. all that stuff you just said, Paul. I think it could have went down that road and gradually got worse and worse until she kicks him out. I think that would have been a better formula. That was the only problem. You're completely right. End result worked, Paul. I just wish it would have worked out for her because I think she's really good on the mic when it comes to really making a lot of crowd reaction happen, when it comes to making you believe that she's just not really that great of a person, even though in real life you know she really is.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately she got the heat.
Yeah, she
ultimately
did.
she got the heat, and that's what matters, I think. But I don't know. Like, I read a lot of stuff of people saying that maybe they wanted some more build to this instead of just suddenly happening after her last title defense. I think the stuff was been kind of there, personally, if you've been watching her reign since she at least won the women's title for sure. Do you guys, would you have preferred there be more build before we got to this promo?
I would not have minded it. I would have liked to maybe see some cracks. I think I could see if someone's saying that. It would have been nice to see some cracks in the relationship because, yeah, they went from hunky-dory to he's not there in the pay-per-view to all of a sudden she's like, I'm done with you. I would understand it if Dana Brooke was whispering in her ear, things like that. It makes so maybe I would like more build. I think maybe you talked me into it a little here.
I think you could see the cracks coming. I think part of what they did with the whole Rick not being ringside was sort of a crack there. It was to prove that she didn't need Rick, and I think part of it too was sort of there was times where, depending on what interview you're listening to, is that Rick kind of didn't have confidence in Charlotte doing it without him either. So that's one of those things like WWE never does subtlety. They never do subtlety. They throw it out there so that it's so obvious to the point where you're like, oh my God, now I don't even want this to happen anymore. Mm-hmm. That's where it gets us a lot of times with WWE, where it's like, okay guys, we're just waiting for this to happen, right? We're like, got the nails on the desk, like just tapping, like, okay, this is gonna happen at some point here. It's like that thing with the club and AJ, like we know where this is going, and we're kind of waiting for it to get there, and we don't need to see the cracks, sort of, because we could kind of tell that was going to happen, right? Like this thing with Charlotte, it was very subtle, and then it explodes. And if WWE did that more often, I think people would be more receptive to it. So it's like one of those, like, okay, we're going to try something new, and the people aren't ready for it, So it's one of those catch-22 things for them. So I would prefer if they did that more often, actually. If they planted some seeds where you have to pay attention, you have to be a fan, and you go, oh man, you're paying something off for us that pay attention. It doesn't have to be so blunt that, your grandma that wasn't even watching 2 weeks ago can see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like your wife, Gary, who could like turn to the screen and go, oh, I can see what's going on here. But like to reward the hardcore fan for paying attention to things that maybe not everybody else paid attention to would be nice sometimes,
And I agree with your point. I really do. And maybe that's where I'm coming from on the perspective of the casual fan may not enjoy that as much because of that reason. Whereas we knew this was going to happen. We knew, of course, the AJ situation was going to happen. My thing about this is adding Dana Brooke. Of course, that wasn't planned. This is because of Emma's injury. We all know that. But saying that, I really would have liked to see more of maybe Dana Brooke. I keep saying Emma. More of Dana Brooke being a part of this decision to break off from her dad. I would love it could still be subtle like you're saying. Maybe her saying, oh, your dad's great. Has he always been there with you your entire career? Have you ever had any success without him? Throw little things here and there everywhere, and then you see, wow, okay, Dana Brooke actually fits in this. Right now, I still feel like this is just an immediate breakup, and Dana Brooke is just there. I don't know. I would have liked to see more more of a friendship, more of a Dana Brooke matters in this whole process.
I think that's fair. I certainly would have loved a pitch to. I was expecting Dana to be the one that actually hit Rick, but that never came about, honestly. So, she's very much an afterthought here. Hopefully, they can fix this or capitalize on that some more, maybe on SmackDown or this coming episode of Raw. For sure.
Yeah, I agree. Well, speaking of that, then we talked about the thing with AJ. So they did do this with AJ. So I should lay this out. It was what we had: Sami Zayn and Sheamus as a Money in the Bank match, and you had Sami Zayn win. You had Dolph and Dean Ambrose, and Ambrose won. You had Cesaro and Miz. Cesaro won. There's other matches that are going to happen on SmackDown too. I think there's 2 more matches that are happening on SmackDown. Two. And Jericho beat Apollo Crews. Which Apollo Crews was kind of out of nowhere. He's just been doing Superstars. So they have the thing where AJ comes out, talks about what happened the night before, and he says that he wants to do things on his own, and he blames the Usos and the club for getting involved, and so, the club takes exception. The segment, I think, did not come off as fluid as you want it to. Certainly awkwardness at times between the guys. I think maybe a part of that is maybe you want there to be the awkwardness, but they get to the point of bringing up Japan and about how things have changed, how it would be different, how whatever, and they go their separate ways. Obviously the club are bothered. Gallus and Anderson are bothered by it. AJ's kind of all about me right now, whatever. What did you guys think? We knew we were going to get to this. Would you have liked for it to kind of, I guess kind of the same thing with that Charlotte situation, like, do you like this whole, we're separating now, just plain right here, or would you have wanted to be a slower thing we're assuming to whenever Finn appears, or whatever?
Personally, I think I like this better. They had been doing and showing the cracks in this sort of relationship since they started pairing them up together. I didn't think this segment was all that awkward. I just don't think AJ's promo here was super on point. And he's never been a great promo guy, but he certainly, I think, could have done better than what we got here. I think at any rate, though, this is the right way to go right now. You gotta do something more with Gallus and Anderson. You gotta get these guys some more heat, because people still don't care about them, and that might have something to do with how the WWE has managed the Usos as well and all this too. But to me, the crowd doesn't care about them all that much. They care about AJ for sure. I don't think a lot of them really care for Gallus or Anderson, though, just because you don't have a lot of reason to hate them.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Yeah, I mean, they're really not the team that we kind of thought they may come in here and be. They came in here and kind of played that mirrored card type role, or 50-50 booking. These guys are nothing just too impressive, as in, we've seen tag teams come in and just be dominant, and then people got behind them, whereas these guys weren't afforded that because of the AJ storyline, blah, blah, blah. But, I like the fact that we do finally have this kind of come into conclusion. And, of course, that could also lead to heat later on between these guys. But I really wish in this, since really AJ didn't step up the game, I really wish Gallows or Anderson would have came in here and really fired up and just, like, you're just not the right AJ, or you're not the guy that we knew, and really got fired up. They were just kind of talking to him, just kind of like, well, I'm kind of offended. This is kind of not cool. I think if I was going to break up a friendship, I think I'd be a little bit more heated. And I kind of felt like it
Well,
wasn't heated enough.
It seemed like that wasn't the point, though. They didn't want to really break it up. It was sort of like AJ was just like, well, dude, guys, if you're just not going to be okay with what I'm telling you here and be friends while we do our separate things, then, hey, man, we don't have to be, they just took exception.
Yeah. But wouldn't you come out, let's just say this, wouldn't you come out and be a little bit more upset if someone says, hey, I had my opportunity to do something great, but you came out and you ruined it, so it's all your fault. You're the reason. If not, I would be okay. Just kind of like if I came on, Sean, and I did a show with you about New Japan, and, I'm not the strongest New Japan guy when it comes to knowledge and knowing every single thing like you, Paul, and, of course, Tom know. It would be kind of a crappy situation for you to come and say to me, well, Gary, you being on the show really screwed us over. That was just, we would have had, 10,000 people listen to it because you were there. We probably had our numbers drop down. I'd be kind of like, wow, well, that's not cool. I thought we were, friends about that. What's the road with that? Why is it the blame on me? Maybe you guys had something that wasn't so favorable. You know what I'm saying? I'd be a little bit more upset. These guys just came in here and just kind of like, well, it is what it is. I'd be a lot more fiery. I'd be a little bit like, well, screw you then. Or these guys were just like, okay, we're walking out.
They did kind of do that. They just didn't, blow up at each other. I think they're waiting on the blow up of each other thing. I think like Paul said it in the group, the whole like, it could be that they're trying to point out that AJ can't win without the club, or because there's multiple ways that they could do this. They could make it to where the club attack him, Gal Sanders attack him, and then it sets up a face turn for Finn, which and then Finn crosses him later, or AJ does stand by himself. And Finn just comes in as the leader, and that's when it turns to the Balor Club or whatever. I don't necessarily. I think you can do it either way. I don't think you have to have the extra turn. I think you can sort of have them turn on him and then say, well, you were never good to us anyway. He was always better than you. And then you bring him out or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I always think that same thing. When I'm thinking about this whole storyline and the way this is going to work out, I keep thinking they're eventually going to maybe make the point that, hey, AJ, you were a part of this, but you also weren't the best part or the founder. We got the founder, and then have Finn come out. Make the point that this guy was the original and the best.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of ways to go about making this a successful angle. And I think ultimately the entire point is to get Finn up onto the main roster into something with some heat going. And there's not really a better way to do it than to capitalize on what they have here with the pieces of the Bullet Club that they pulled over from New Japan. So when you look at it, I think ultimately we'll get the tag match. I think AJ brings up Finn to face Gallus and Anderson. And it turns out that Finn, of course, is going to turn on him because he gets the Bullet Club thing and he wants to win and make the impact and all this other stuff. And, the difference between what Finn wants to do and what AJ wants to accomplish here, I think could be a good way to have those two feud going into SummerSlam or however long you want that to go, In the meantime, you really need to hammer, like AJ losing tonight, I think was a good move. Gallows and Anderson, I was really expecting them to either come out on the entryway and be like, hey, dude, what's up? We didn't run in, all this other stuff, and look where you are. You're looking up at the lights. But we didn't get that. So maybe we capitalize on this later. But
I mean, they also have SmackDown. They have the next Raw, to kind of point that stuff out. I mean, so.
Yeah. There's plenty of story to go.
I would go with that other route, just because I don't think you need the extra turn. I think it's sort of overkill, but I think it's interesting just to see where they go with this, and I'm just glad it doesn't seem like it's going to be that thought of some people had that it might be Rollins or whatever. It seems like they're steering away from that, and they're just kind of building to possibly the week before Money in the Bank, or at Money in the Bank is when we see Finn, because it'll be after that last TakeOver show. Apparently, I did find out that both Joe and Balor have had main roster contracts from the word go. They never had NXT quote-unquote contracts. So they've always been making that big money, or whatever that everybody else makes. The thing I will say is this Raw really brought out that, like, story part of WWE, that when they do this stuff right and they can pay this stuff off well, that's what you enjoy about the company. You know, they gave you the wrestling. It all had a point because it was all Money in the Bank matches pretty much, except for New Day squashing Social Outcasts. And then are any of the matches from the Money in the Bank stand out to you guys? The main event was awesome, obviously. I think that's definitely the best match of the show, but any of the other ones that you really liked?
So I only managed to catch the last hour wrestling right. So Kevin Owens and AJ Styles was pretty good. I thought Dean and Dolph was fine. It found its way, I think, by the end. But, you already knew Dean was walking out there. I do want to say Kevin Owens going over clean is a really smart move. I'm about 90% sure he's the one winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. There's not a better heel, I think, to challenge Reigns unless you decide to move the title to Rollins after all this. So, and I don't think they're going to. So Kevin getting the briefcase, I think, makes a lot of sense to me.
Gary, what did you think of how they brought back Apollo Crews for this, to put him in one of these matches, and you have Sheamus beat him up before he even goes out there, and then he loses, but I guess it's so he can have a feud with Sheamus. Do you like that feud with Sheamus as his first real feud?
I'll be honest with you, I do. And that's weird to say because, there's not been a whole lot that I've been excited about Sheamus being a part of lately. He's just not been my cup of tea lately. But I do like the fact that they really kind of started this thing off right by having, Sheamus lose his qualifying match from Money in the Bank. He gets frustrated and he takes it out on a young, new talent. And Apollo Crews is a great guy to be that person to do it because not only does Sheamus have heat with the fans, they are not big fans, and of course even the hardcore fans are just kind of bored with Sheamus. I mean, let's just be honest. So now you got Apollo Crews put in the situation who already kind of battles with a personality issue. He's an excellent talent in the ring, but he's just really smiley kind of guy, nice guy, awesome guy. He's just personality-wise, he's still got a lot of work to do when it comes to that. And so I think putting him against Sheamus, I think will help him leaps and bounds. It kind of makes me excited about actually watching Apollo Crews now because now we'll have an opportunity to see how he can interact with a guy like Sheamus who does a pretty darn good job of getting heat. So I think this is great. I think they did a great thing by, of course, getting Sheamus to attack him before his match. And when he loses his match now, you're no longer concerned about him with Money in the Bank. Now you're just concerned about that feud. So I like it. I think it's actually a wise thing.
I know you're a Sheamus fan, Paul, so I'm sure you're happy that he has a role of apparently wanting to destroy the new era.
And I don't know if that particular angle does a lot for me, mostly because, I love Sheamus as a worker to death, but this last run of the League of Nations just murders your interest in him. And hopefully working with some younger guys can maybe see him bring a fire to the table that we haven't seen in a little while. I think him and Apollo can have some really great matches too, because they're both big guys who are just terrific athletes too. So
I'm kind of
look
upset
forward to it.
about you're gonna get Jericho instead of like Apollo could be that guy in the Money in the Bank that could have the Kalisto moment, and that kind of sucks that we don't get to see that. Instead, we get Jericho in a match where he really probably shouldn't be in, considering. But
I really wouldn't be surprised if Kalisto ends up Money in the Bank.
oh yeah, well I mean we do need to. We'll find out tomorrow if he's gonna be in one of the qualifiers. But
We got 2 spots left, and I'm pretty sure one of them has already been gift wrapped and delivered to Cena before we've even gotten there. So
Kofi,
well,
because he's a New Day, doesn't
I
want-
think they made it seem like the other two are gonna happen on SmackDown, and that's it. We're gonna know who they are, but you never know. They could have Cena take one of those spots. Somebody gets injured, whatever.
yeah, well, because I mean Kalisto's got the U.S. title rematch on SmackDown, and then Cesaro Miz got the Intercontinental title match on there. So I mean SmackDown looks good. I don't remember them saying anything about qualifiers over there, but you never know.
I don't know. It was a promo that came out. I think before
Okay.
the show, they could have changed it. You know how they are. They don't always deliver on their little promos that they do.
I have a question, kind of going back to Apollo Crews and Sheamus, though, Paul. I mean, I agree with you in the ring, and I'm just kind of curious what you think. Do you kind of think where I'm coming from? I'm coming from the aspect that I think on the mic, backstage segments, things like that, because people, I mean, I kind of get it from the crowd. I mean, Sheamus just, especially since of that whole last League of Nations thing, they're not excited about him. They just don't have a lot of care. But they love to hate him. They really do. I think people really enjoy hating Sheamus. I think not only does that kind of help Apollo Crews because, he doesn't have to do a whole lot to be the good guy here, but I think also Sheamus and him can have some good banter. I think that Sheamus maybe can help him, coach him up and say, hey, this is how you get back at me. I don't know. I just kind of like that. I like that grouping right now.
I like the pairing. For Sheamus, I think the easy play here is for him to just bully. You beat up Apollo, you beat up anybody who's got a new era sway to him, and I think you're golden there. Because I mean, a lot of people, I think, are buying into a lot of these new guys. So like this could break away into small little things that you have Apollo come in and save the day for too. So you have that working for you too. I don't know maybe about Sheamus teaching Apollo how to do a promo, because Sheamus is a good promo. He's not a great promo though, But I mean, anything is better than Smiley Apollo, who doesn't really say much right now.
Yeah, I understand that too, and I'm sure he's got better coaches. I just look at the crowd reactions. Just no one. He barely gets any reaction when he comes out. It's been since day one. So I'm just thinking to myself, surely Sheamus, if no one else can help this guy get at least a better reaction. So.
Yeah, I like it because I think Apollo is one of these guys that he needs a story in order for you to care about him, and that also kind of allows for you to when you have something attached to it, instead of just him having a match that doesn't matter, it allows the crowd to kind of get into him more than say just, oh, you've got this this thing with he's having a random match here, random match here. He got attacked. He has a reason now to wrestle Sheamus, and let's see where they take it, But I always enjoy heel nasty Sheamus is way better than, fella Sheamus is funny and everything, but fella Sheamus gets old. So mean Sheamus is always better. We did get the return of Enzo, so Enzo's back. Talk some smack to the Dudley Boys. So did Big Cass. After Big Cass beat Bubba Ray. Obviously it's good to know Enzo's okay. I thought all of Enzo's stuff didn't necessarily land this time, but he's he's still kind of getting back in the groove of things, whatever. But the crowd responded to him, so that's good. I mean, I think you can definitely see WWE is trying. They try to make it seem like we're gonna make Cass whatever he's saying here is certainly important, where he's telling Enzo to like calm down and all that, whatever. But I think this definitely solidifies the fact that Vince may like Cass, but separating them from each other would be a bad idea at this point, because Enzo definitely gets that crowd a lot more into things than just Cass by himself.
Yeah, I agree. Because we've already seen it on NXT, but even just watching in the brief little run here, I mean, Enzo Amore is a guy that is just a lot of fun to watch. He's got some comedic value. He does a lot. Kaz has done fine by himself. He's not done terrible at all. He really has done his due diligence to be good, and he has. I just think Amore adds a lot to him. It gives him an opportunity to have both these guys do what they do best. And really, I mean, Enzo can go off and really, tell the jokes, do all the fun stuff. You got Big Cass coming on there, giving his thoughts really quickly. Some of it funny, some of it just straight up, hey, we're going to beat you down. It makes sense. It's a lot more fun with both. I don't imagine a split would ever be good, at least for this short period of time. Maybe later on in their career, but not right now.
Yeah, certainly not right now. The great thing about Enzo is that even if all of his his disses don't hit, he has such a fire and energy to him that you can't really help but cheer. So, like, when he says some of the lamest, stupidest stuff, you still can't, help but either laugh or cheer for him, just because his personality just leaps off of his body, and you can't teach that, as they would say.
I know. I wish I had his energy. I wish I had the energy to run around like he does. My goodness, it's amazing.
Yeah. So guys, that hashtag WTM Puerto Rico is still in effect, because the Shining Stars, they are still all about telling you how you need to go visit Puerto Rico instead of, doing anything involving wrestling or anything for that matter. And you can totally tell that they're standing in front of a still image or a green screen or whatever, not in Puerto Rico anymore. So.
Oh, shame.
I think the important part here is that the hashtag lives. That's really all. I think that's all I'm invested in with these guys at this point.
Agreed.
I still don't know why I need to hate them. Like, so you guys are from Puerto Rico, okay? What's the problem?
Maybe we're supposed to look through Vince's eyes. We're not supposed to like you from not from America.
Fair enough. But yeah, so I guess the only thing we got left to do here with this is what would you rate Raw?
I guess it's only fair. I know Paul has not got an opportunity to watch the entire show. Of course, I'll let him kind of give you his thoughts. For me, personally, I think the show was fairly well done. The qualifiers were fun. I was not a big fan of the Ambrose Ziggler match, but, Paul made a good point. It did start to get better at the end, but still, for the most part, a little disappointed in that one. Jericho winning against Apollo was okay, but, it wasn't bad. It just was nothing just super spectacular. But, I love the other two matches. The other qualifiers were awesome. Just loved watching Sami Zayn and Cesaro. Cesaro, just, man, he did a great job. And so looking at all this, I mean, it was pretty good with the qualifiers. The New Day disappointed me a little bit. It was kind of boring. I didn't really care about the birthday thing. It makes sense. It's not supposed to be a big thing because of the run-in, but I don't know. Just was not a fan of that New Day experience. But, still the same, but not a bad Raw. I was actually entertained through most of it. So I actually, surprisingly, after the bad stuff I said, I think I'm going to give it an 8. I did enjoy it.
I mean, the stuff I saw was pretty good, I thought. I was leaning more towards, just after what I saw plus what I've read, somewhere in the 7.5 range, probably.
I was gonna say a 7 too. There wasn't really there wasn't anything to not like about the show. I think that's certainly one of the New Day segments. This wasn't, I don't know, it was just there for me. And I was waiting for Xavier to tell me about his DMs being open. I mean, that's like the thing now. We gotta hear that. And Mateo in the group, he's listening live. Want to give a shout out to him. He's from Puerto Rico, and he says, "Look, man, I don't even like this."
Wow, see? Oh, it just shows you. This is amazing how...
I think we have another guy that actually is from there, or he lives there, or whatever, and he said that to me too. Like, just, man, I want to root for them, but, like, just, like, what is there to care about these guys? Like, thank you for being the travel guide to the country, but that's all you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I would be interested. Mateo, being from there, I'd love to hear from him sometime because of the fact that, remember, I kind of talked about this. I've only been there once, and it was just a very quick turnaround trip because I was on a cruise. But I listened to the tour guy talk about, Puerto Rico and their ties to the United States. And I think there's a lot more heel heat that these guys could get with, and maybe hating the United States. I know it's a silly angle because it's been done so many times, but hey, I mean, it's better than what we're getting, right? I would love to hear his thoughts on that too, because I think maybe Mateo may even have some of his own personal thoughts. I'd love to hear that sometime. So maybe you can hit us up on the group.
Yeah, I'll keep tabs on that as we keep going here. But so we've given our rating. I guess that's it for Raw here then.
Yeah, great stuff, guys. And of course, we will, talk more about SmackDown when we get our Thursday show. It'll kind of give you the rest of the qualifiers and all that it entails. We're looking forward to that this next Thursday night. But now we are going to jump over and talk some wrestling news with some quick hits, and we'll be right back with that next.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
All right, guys.
So, are we going to want to talk about the Shane thing first, since it happened right after Raw? Or do you want to talk about other stuff first?
I kind of blanked. I forgot about it because it was not that it's significant for me. But yeah, let's talk Shane first because that was right after Raw. Thank you for reminding me, Sean. I probably wouldn't remember till we talk about something else. This was a interesting interview when it comes to some of the topics that Mick Foley brought up. Of course, Shane's childhood, his relationship with his father, and of course, what it was like when it comes to being inside the locker room growing up. What was it like to go in his own venture, being away 7 years, his relationship with Stephanie, Triple H, and all that entailed with that. I'm kind of curious what you guys think about it. Paul, you watched it too, didn't you, or did you not?
I watched it.
Okay, making sure all of us watched it because I wasn't really clear. So, wow. I mean, the one thing I'm going to say about this, the first thing is I'm a little pissed off because they said this is a tell-all, which I get it. They're not going to tell all. But they purposely asked questions, and I don't think Mick Foley just threw this at Shane. But I think he really undersold Mick Foley a lot, and that was the Triple H thing. Asking him about Triple H, I mean, it's like Shane.
No, he didn't undersell him, Gary. It was awkwardly obvious he was avoiding answering that question because, this is what I really appreciate Mick Foley, because I thought we were going to get Total Jericho podcast here for a while. And he eventually got to that point. Mick Foley asks him again, are you sure that's what you want to say? And he kind of, it's like, when he said, I'm going to accept that tells you right there it's not the truth. But Shane isn't going to go blast Triple H on the WWE Network either. So it's one of those where he could have been a little bit real and not put him on blast and just said the truth. Like, yeah, me and him did have some problems, and right now we've kind of squashed them and whatever. But I think it's just that whole, they don't want those reports that were true, obviously, to really have some foundation to them. because then that all comes up again, right? It all comes up in the news again, and it's going to be this huge spectacle, in the Observer and everything else on Wednesday and Thursday and all that. So they have to think about it like that. You don't want stories like this coming out, especially because they're a public company now too. And that if there's any kind of, there's unrest in the family, stock goes down. Like just, it sucks to hear, but they're a corporation. It's just
don't sell me that it's a tell-all. Then it's just because it's not. This is not a shoot interview. I get.
Trust me, I was mad like you were, and Paul had to calm me down about it too. Poor choice of promotion, certainly. I don't know,
yes.
Paul. Just
for me, when they say tell-all now, it means, hey, you might want to watch this because they're gonna say something. It's not gonna be what you want to hear, but they're gonna talk about something. That's tell-all when WWE means it, And I think. First, I want to hats off to Mick Foley. I think he did a wonderful job hosting this thing. It seems like he sat down with a plan. He wanted to get from this point to this point, and hit some other stuff along the way. And I think he did a wonderful job of doing that. So hats off to Mick. He's a great host. Secondly, I think whenever they got to the Montreal Screwjob part and Shane really talks to him about Vince being really gung-ho about protecting the business, I think that's something that is super ingrained in the McMahon children. And I think it's really obvious in these podcasts whenever they're supposed to be tell-all, quote-unquote, they're going to say so much, and maybe Shane might be a little bit more casual, because he felt more casual and willing to go into some parts more than maybe Steph might have. But I think protecting the business, first and foremost, is number one on their mind whenever they sit down at this table. So when it came to the stuff about Triple H and him being super, hey, I'm not going to talk about that, pretty much without saying it, but totally meaning that I think is a good encapsulation of that whole part about the Montreal Screwjob. Because, I mean, we've all heard the stories now from different points of view. This matches up, I think, with pretty much everything we've heard from different people who were there. And when I totally forgot what point I was going to make. So, moving on.
I think you bring up some good points there, and I did appreciate the talk about the Montreal Screwjob and things like that. And I think it's really good that they put that into place and that Mick Foley, asked those questions. I also found it very interesting that the one thing he did answer about Triple H and Stephanie was the fact that he was not honestly gung-ho about them getting married, but he said primarily it was just about the fact that they hid it from him, that they wouldn't talk about it. So it made me to think that there was some heat there before even we got this far with Triple H, or maybe he was overprotective about his sister and was not going to be happy with any guy, because he also mentioned the whole rule of talent in the office don't mix kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, he's also bringing that up from a old school minded time in the business, which feels weird to say because it wasn't honestly that long ago. Maybe 30 years. But certainly with the way Shane was talking, kayfabe is dead. Gorilla position. All this other stuff that he keeps bringing up, psychology. I'm like, man,
boy, he keeps calling. Yeah. You're not even supposed to really call them the boys either. Like
the boys.
He keeps making reference to the boys all the time. Like he had a couple references to I forgot what he said it's called. Like when you get that standing, like the popping the monitor.
Yeah.
Like. I mean, in the Indies, you don't have a monitor, but it's like, I mean, I was just like, wow, shit. He said stuff that, you don't even hear people say on podcasts sometimes. It's just like, okay, whatever, and that's what kind of bothered me when I get it, and maybe they will have a part 2 and whatever, but now we're going to have to wait, another 6 months for them to have a part 2. but like that they didn't get into the current stuff because when they talk, I think that's where he could have been a little bit more freeform. Maybe said, I think this is what I like about the current, what's out there currently, what I don't like about what's out there currently, or whatever. And I think at the end of the day, you want to hear some of the old stuff. I think, obviously people wanted to hear about his relationship with Triple H and Stephanie, whatever. I think we wanted to hear about what his current position is in the company, what he thinks about wrestling currently. Like, that was a bigger thing to me than going over the history of Shane McMahon at parts. But maybe that's just me as this smart fan or whatever. And there are people that probably really wanted to hear some of those, and they were fun. Like the story where Vince is really mad at him because he gets him a motorcycle or whatever. That was funny. I think, again, like, to me it was like part Jericho podcast and part the Stone Cold podcast that Mick was trying to play that line, and I think they could have made sure that because that's one thing I appreciate about Stone Cold. He always brings it back to current day. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I think you always have to focus on. You end it with, what do you think about what's going on right now? Because that is what's going to, the bulk of your audience is going to be wanting to hear about that. What do you think about what's going on right now in the company? Because that old stuff, it's cool, but that old stuff doesn't matter anymore. So.
Yeah, and for a lot of reasons, I did want to hear some of the old stuff just because I want insight. But really, the insight I got was a lot of the known things. Not a whole lot of it was just super brand new material that I'm like, oh man, that's really cool. Or it was stuff I've heard before. But they did get in a few things I hadn't. But saying that, I think, really this ended up being half about Shane McMahon and half about Vince. It really did, and I think you're right, Sean. If they'd added more current product stuff, it wouldn't have been like that. But I kind of felt like I had a podcast that had Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon because it was really, honestly, half about Vince. I also kind of look at this and think to myself, okay, so Mick Foley comes on here and says that, he talked to Stone Cold about him hosting this. And Stone Cold basically saying, hey, I've got a bad shoulder, not a good thing for me to be there anyway. Do you think it was really just a call to say, hey, Stone Cold may go further in these questions and ask harder questions? There's a possibility that let's get someone safer like Mick, who will probably follow the company line a little bit easier.
I think, Stone Cold legit did have that injury, though.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know it's true, but still, I mean, he could have made it if he really wanted to.
We know how Stone Cold is. He's kind of like Vince. He doesn't like to be seen when he's injured.
Yeah, but was it my thought process? It's not just about that. It was, did he even get the offer? That's my thought. Did he even get the offer on the table?
But didn't Mick make that clear, though? That was the point. Like, Mick said that. Like, Stone Cold would have been here, but he said he didn't want to be seen injured.
Right. Did he actually say
it could be a total cop-out. I thought Stone Cold had addressed that, too. Maybe it was on Twitter or something, but I could have swore he said something about why he's not doing it.
That's fine. That's fine and dandy. I was concerned this was an office thing. They were saying Stone Cold may be a little too hard on him. Well, let's just go with someone a little easier. But that was just my thought process. I don't know the other information.
I don't think Mick shied away from any really tough questions. He maybe let Shane get away with a couple things, for sure. But like I said, I think Mick sat down with a definite format in mind. I think he addressed it all very well, because the big thing I think that people probably really wanted them to talk about more was why Shane left. And to accomplish that, Mick said, okay, we're going to establish how you got into wrestling, this whole career that you had, from working as pretty much a young boy, working tearing the ring apart, doing all this other thing, to carrying jackets, to being a referee, to being an on-air talent, to all these other things. And then you suddenly decide to leave, which is why I think the relationship with Vince was so important to keep bringing up. And then you sort of get into the return, which is once again about Vince, because Vince made the phone call. We all know that. and all this other stuff. So ultimately, I don't know if you could really talk about Shane McMahon's career without talking about Vince. Not only because, father and son, but that there's just so much of a relationship there that you can't help but talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
I did hearing the part where Undertaker called him and he talked about the Undertaker, what that meant, and all that stuff, that he wanted to do that for him and whatever, and he wanted to make it a point that his kids saw him wrestle and all that stuff, which is, we've heard many a wrestler say that, Goldberg has said that many times, whatever. And so like I said, I want to make this clear on my end, and I think we've all kind of made this clear. There was interesting stuff in here. There was stuff, I think it's well worth watching.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like the Stephanie one where it was a total trash, just baby, no reason to really watch that. She's gone a little bit deeper in interviews that weren't on the network than she did with Jericho there. Like you said, Paul, Foley asked the questions that needed to be asked. Again, there was stuff about current day that sadly got left out. But he asked all those questions. I understand why he left it where he left it. Because again, I think that was the kind of the whole point. It was it was him and Dad, then he left, then he came back, and then him and his dad reconciled, and that's kind of where they're at right now. And that was sort of the whole piece of it. Maybe we do get a part 2 where he talks about other things or whatever, but who knows? Maybe he'll have a book one day and he'll get to go into the ins and outs of his issues with Triple H and whatever. But that whole thing of where he talks about Stephanie, the marriage to Triple H, it wasn't just about that it got hidden from you. There was when you say something about Gary, you've gone through this, right? Your sister is married. My sister's had different boyfriends, but I've really never had a problem with my sister's boyfriends or whatever. When you say something about, I'm glad he makes her happy, but that's all you have to say about somebody, you guys obviously have a problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not, if you don't have good things to say about somebody besides that, there's something going on there.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, because you talk to all sorts of people who have issues with, not just in-laws like that or family members in general. They're going to say, oh, they're good people. That's about it. I don't really want to get into it. A lot of people will say that they don't want to talk about it because they don't have nothing good to say.
Right.
Yeah. So I've heard of that happening before, and yeah, I totally agree. I could see that, and I think that's where Shane's going to be careful. Once again, he's trying to, I think, reconcile his connections to WWE. I think he wants a better part in the company. Right now, he's just under the talent contract. That's about as far as he gets. So I think if he ever wants to be in a larger role, I think he's got to say those kind of things and play that game. So I don't know. I once again, I agree with you guys. This is a good show. This was nothing wrong with this interview. It was just, once again, you just want more. And I think, I could look at a lot of other podcasts on this network and say, man, I wanted more out of this guy or this girl, and I really wanted to hear more. Why didn't they ask these questions? But that always can't be the case. Let's be honest. This is not a tell-all kind of situation. This is the network. They're not going to ruin anything or relationships on the network.
Look, with as much as they have the characters on Can't WWE make fun of the characters themselves, I think that's about as much as we're going to get sometimes.
Yeah.
Or the Edge and Christian. The only reason the Edge and Christian thing is the way it is because Vince has something to do with it. Because some of the stuff they say is just if Vince had something to do with that, there'd be no way they'd be talking about it,
Yeah.
But, yeah. Speaking of things that they probably don't want to be talked about, I guess Adam Rose and Cody Rhodes decide, within a weekend, they're gone.
Exactly, and that was what we were going to get into here. And once again, I mean, this is a situation where we saw the Adam Rose thing coming a mile away because of the situations he got himself into, and of course being suspended 60 days because of the wellness policy and the Adderall he's been taking. But now that he's been arrested, of course, bailed out and all that, got kind of his own probation with his pastor. Really, WB pretty much, I think, was ready to wash their hands of him. And I don't know where this came into play. Maybe they told him, hey, we'll be nicer to you if you just ask for your release. That way we're not actually just releasing you. Or did he actually, for some reason, say, you know what, I'm going to be the one getting out of this. I'm not going to let them fire me. But he did request his release. He was granted it. Same goes for Cody Rhodes for a different reason. But let's start with Adam Rose. Let's start with him first because I think both stories have their own unique purposes. Looking at this, Paul, I mean, what's your theory on this? I mean, is this a situation where you think he was honestly wanting his release, or do you think they kind of bribed him into it?
I think this is a 50-50 situation. Obviously, WWE done goofed with the Adderall thing and all that, popping him for wellness there. And then he goes and makes a mistake outside of wrestling and gets into this whole thing where he gets arrested and all that stuff. When it comes to in-ring stuff, though, he's not being used in a great spot. He's in a jobber stable. Let's be honest. They're not going to do anything more with him, I think, other than what they've already done. So if he wants to keep wrestling, maybe it's time to go find you another place that's going to do something more with you, that has a spot for you, really, because you look at the WWE now, and that roster went from, man, where are all the stars, to holy crap, we're crowded. So maybe taking a leave now isn't a bad idea.
Yeah, and Sean, I mean, looking at this, I think that, WWE, I think they're going to be a lot more lenient, and, of course, they will be on Cody Rhodes about him eventually finding a new place to wrestle. Is there any place that Adam Rose fits, though? I mean, I'm just trying to think myself. I'd maybe TNA? I don't know.
Adam Rose?
Yeah.
I honestly, this is one of those weird things because, again, Adam Rose was being brought in at a time similar to Cody Rhodes, where you had all these guys, Ted DiBiase's, other guys in this form, the Rob Conways and all that La Resistance people, that were just basically all brought in, and they all wrestled the same. They all wrestled that old WWE style and whatever. And so it's hard to be able to say, okay, well, we know. Same thing with Sandow. We know what these guys can do based off of what we see in WWE, and I think Cody stands out by himself from things we've seen. But Adam Rose is different. Gary, I know you really like the Leo Kruger thing. I like Leo Kruger. Can he capture that magic in, say, TNA? Maybe. I'd love for him to go to TNA just because I want him to have another job for his kids. It's so hard to say because, like I said, if we had never seen that E60 special and known the stuff about his kid, would we be talking about him in the same way? Who knows? But I obviously want him to have employment, and I want him to be doing something besides indies. I think TNA is probably the only place that would probably take him. Because the other companies, I just don't see that really being a thing. Cody Rhodes, I know we're kind of mixing both in here, but Cody Rhodes, I think he has the door open to him to go anywhere he wants to go. If WWE allows it, which that's a problem. But with Adam Rose, I just think if TNA doesn't even look at him, he's going to have a problem. He's going to be doing indies, and it's, hopefully that doesn't cause more stress for his family. He may not make enough to be able to do what he needs to do for everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a major problem, and it really is. And I think that, you make a good point there. Would we really be concerned about Adam Rose as much if we weren't, in the knowledge of his son being sick and the intense care that his kid needs, and it's just the fact that he has a pretty decent-sized family to take care of. And, you wonder, this guy's been following his dream for a long time, but can he afford to do that anymore? Especially with having to worry about going to companies that may not pay him a whole lot. I mean, TNA's a decent payday, but they're not WWE. And then you're looking at, of course, any other place like Ring of Honor, anywhere, they can pay you so much. But is Adam Rose that featured guy? I don't know. I don't think so. Cody Rhodes, we're seeing him come out, and he's ready. He wants to go wrestle. Now, he's willing to go act, do other things in his life. But right now, he's a wrestler. He's even kind of said that in his statement. And you're right, Sean. He's got an open door to most of these places, but that's because really we look at him as, hey, he can go do what EC3 did. He can make himself a star. He can be a second EC3, a success from the WWE not wanting him to be success to being very successful. So it's a little bit different here, Paul. I mean, I don't know. I do get worried about Adam Rose because I think Cody Rhodes just has so much potential. I'm not even worried about him.
Much like what you guys have already said, I think Adam Rose really only fits in TNA. He's not this amazing worker that indies will flock to, like a Cody Rhodes. He doesn't have a ton working for him other than, hey, I've been with the WWE, and he's a fine worker. He's not, obviously he's not like top brass, but he's good, and certainly somebody I think TNA could do something with. But that's the only place I really see him fitting that's major, unless Lucha Underground comes up with some character for him. Because I think that's something Adam Rose does very well, and that's play characters. I just don't know if his wrestling style really fits what they got going on over there. Mm-hmm. But we're also talking about the same promotion that found a place for Ezekiel Jackson. So there's that.
Yeah. True.
Cody Rhodes, he can work anywhere in the world. And I really hope he finds his way to Ring of Honor New Japan at some point. He can make the rounds all the way around like Drew Galloway's doing too, just work all over the world, and certainly he won't be hurting. He's too good.
Yeah, I think Cody Rhodes could even bring Sandow along with him and reform the Rhodes Scholars and be a really great tag team anywhere they want to go to. That would be interesting. He literally like I said, he has that door open to him and so many avenues. He taught and he wrote this two-pronged thing on Twitter, which I posted in the group, and I'm sure it's been everywhere by now. So that's not a thing, but just I thought he was. For one, it's always nice to hear somebody that's not bitter and hateful, and like he was very real about what he said, But the thing is, you have to understand, and I think people will. I do think that I think we need to be. We should look at this in a way that that NXT writer that we always talk about that went to SmackDown. He is the writer that Cody talks about when he says the guy that wants to hook up with the developmental divas. That's Ryan Ward, by the way. So that's interesting. But he has that connection to NXT, so that would be why he says that. But I think we're also looking at it from the writers don't have hardly any power. Let's be honest. It's all about Triple H and Vince. These guys are writing to what Vince likes, and if you're writing to yourself, Vince is going to can you because he wants to hear ideas that he can actually work off of and then, decide yes, no, yes on that. Okay, let me see how I can change it or whatever. Like, he don't want to hear about ideas that Vince doesn't care about this character already. If Vince is done with that character, you're not going to waste your time writing about a character that Vince is done with. It don't make no sense for that writer because that's his job, And you're always going to have guys like a Road Dogg, like somebody else that's going to say, yeah, sure, we'll help you out. We'll try. Michael Cole is going to say, yeah, sure, I'll put a word in. But you can put a word in to whoever you want. Doesn't mean that they're going to say, sure, Let's go ahead and let him be Cody Rhodes again. And then that was the whole basis of that Twitter post was they were not going to let me be Cody Rhodes again. And I think, it's really brave of him to say, you know what, it's not about the money for me. It's about having opportunities for myself. And, he talks about if he could have an opportunity in Hollywood right now, he might, we don't know. But he's a wrestler, and he wants to wrestle. Now, the problem is now we find out that WWE did not just say, oh, yeah, Cody, that's cool. We're cool with you being released. No, they're not. This is sort of like a Daniel Bryan. Basically, they're trying to hold him to at least a no-compete, if not his entire contract that he has left. So he can't just go anywhere right now. WWE's trying to prevent him from doing that because Cody basically sort of got an, okay, we'll release you, but you're not completely free sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're and to be honest, WWE's smart there too because obviously they don't want a lot of people making a bunch of money off Cody, who is going to make a bunch of money for somebody. So at least they sort of knew what they had.
Right.
But, I mean, there's part of that post, too, that Cody makes that seems like he almost needs to leave, not just because he's a wrestler who wants opportunities to be able to be that guy that he wants to be, but that he needs to get away from a place that is so associated with his dad because of, the sudden, the Dream's sudden passing and all that stuff. And I think maybe he just wants to try to distance himself from that place almost just to catch a break, catch some air away from his father's legacy almost, so he can try to start dealing and get over it.
Right. Yeah, and that's a big thing too. Gary, I mean, like having a guy like that is so huge, so important to that company, so important to NXT, so, just everything. And Triple H constantly talks about him, like, just, that's a figure that, like, it's not going to go away in that company, and then, like, that's your dad, and people are going to, that opportunity that Charlotte's getting, he's not going to get staying there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, I guess if you got to pick a company where you think he's going to wind up.
Ooh, that's, it's tough because there's so many places you go. It's really difficult for me to say at this point. I don't think, once again, TNA is one you could say, but I don't even know. Cody Rhodes, I think, is going to have better offers. I really do. And I really feel like if it's not New Japan, it would not surprise me if Ring of Honor didn't make a play for Cody Rhodes.
The great thing is if you work one of those, you can work the other pretty easily. So if Ring of Honor comes his way, obviously New Japan's in the cards. If you just go straight up to New Japan, I think Ring of Honor could be in the cards too. There's so many options for it. Like like I said, if he wants to take the Drew Galloway route and work a major place and then a whole ton of indies around the world, I don't think there's a promotion in existence that would refuse Cody a day to come on in and work the show.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he might go that route at first. And I do think this is one of those guys that this is very much like a EC3, Drew Galloway situation. Like, you get TNA goes and gets a Cody Rhodes, Mike Bennett, whatever. TNA goes and gets a Cody Rhodes. You have a guy that you could do something with. That he can now be another guy you put up there with those 3 or 4 guys and say, we have a good nucleus now of younger guys that we can build into our own stars. And yeah, Cody's going to have that WWE name or whatever, but he was mid-card. He wasn't ever a world champion. It's not like Christian where he came over there and he had a much, much bigger name or whatever. This is a guy that you could create into your own thing, and I think TNA would be dumb to pass that up. Throw him the money you need to throw him. Go get him. Don't go make him world champion day one, but do what you've been doing with all the guys. Build him up, make him something, and you have something that can draw. Whether TNA's ratings ever go up, that's another thing entirely, but, whatever. I mean, that may be a thing that makes Cody not go there, knowing that at any point that can be a sinking ship, but,
Yeah, no, and you make good points here, and I think that's a very good possibility. I think it could be something that would be really beneficial for him because he'd be, towards the top immediately. But I just keep thinking to myself,
And if he lives in Florida, he doesn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, that's true too. But is it going to be something where he feels it's going to be lucrative? Is it going to be a place where he's really going to get big opportunities? It could be. I don't know. I just think it's going to be hard for them to be able to afford Cody Rhodes when they're already going to be paying Ryback a ton of money.
Do we know Ryback made that stupid? You're going to see Ryborg in the Impact Zone. What the hell? Like, Ryback's just... There are supposed to be cuts that are maybe happening this week, so by the time we have another show... I know we said this a couple weeks ago, but there may be more people we're talking about by the time our next show or whatever, but...
Yeah, and talking about that, I mean, in WWE, it's kind of funny because, Zack Ryder made his own comments about the fact that, hey, he's in Baltimore on Sunday night when everybody else is, at a pay-per-view. And I guess he was...
Outback.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
And he doesn't even get to be there with his girlfriend, because she's with the back problems.
But just he may be with his girlfriend pretty soon because they may go ahead and cut ties with him. So, I mean,
I hope they don't cut ties with Emma. That'd be terrible.
Oh, that would be awful. Poor lad. She's I mean, we're talking about TNA, so I think we kind of gave our due diligence on Adam Rose and Cody Rhodes here. Let's talk about the fact that TNA was just in our quick hits last week. I believe on Thursday we kind of talked about the fact that they weren't even mentioned on Pop TV's upfronts, all the big shows that they have on their network. We were kind of questioning that. Well, now we get a little bit more information because the president of Pop TV, Bradley Schwartz, kind of talked about TNA and actually kind of praised TNA a little bit. He kind of talked about the fact that they had a multi-year deal with TNA that they were very happy with, that the fact that, they really don't have to sell TNA because TNA sells itself. It's their second largest show on their network, so that's why they weren't on the upfronts. Kind of talks also.
It's that deal that they have with TNA is the thing with why they don't sell the ads for TNA like that, like they do for those shows. So that's sort of why TNA.
Different ad situation. You're correct on that. But that's part of that. But he also gets into some other things, like people were asking questions. Well, then why did you guys take away the replay? This sounds like a little bit of working with to me. I think he kind of probably sat down and thought about these before he got there. He said, "Oh well, no, that's really replays are not important. People have DVRs, people have social media, people have ways of watching this. Replay's not necessary. They can watch it on the weekend. A weekend's a good time to have wrestling on. We just want to catch people flipping the channels, which is weird to me because a replay would catch the people up late at night flipping channels. But anyway, kind of getting into that and I just thought this was interesting. Kind of bringing up those thoughts and some of these questions that we've been asking about him. I mean, is this a sign of good for TNA actually, or is this just someone being nice and just talking about TNA because he kind of has to?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't know how to take this because I know you mentioned a number about how much it was to buy ad space during TNA Impact.
$300. Right?
Yeah, like that doesn't sing with a good relationship. Because obviously, TV is in this. They're in this to make money. Pop TV. If TNA is not making you any money, but it's still your second highest rated show, does that really matter? And maybe they just don't want to back out of a contract or anything, but it's just curious, you know?
Yeah, the thing is, it's not like Pod TV just has this plethora. This is the difference between. This is where I do think that he might be right, in that Pod TV is much different than Spike and Destination America. They have proven reality TV that they can put in front of TNA and get the same ratings. Whereas Pod TV, they have some shows, and I'm sure that like Schitt's Creek does decent, and some of their other stuff does decent numbers. But if 300-something thousand is your second highest rated show, that definitely tells me you're very low on that pecking order of your channel does not get that many viewers, period.
Mm-hmm.
So you just want shows, and you're not really even having to pay for TNA. This is a show that they're making money off of like ad rates and whatever, while you're giving them the TV space. So it doesn't really hurt Pod TV to have TNA on at all. Whereas the other two channels, it was hurting them. At Destination America, there was advertisers that would not advertise on Destination America because of TNA being on there. You know, Spike TV just got tired of them because they spent all that money on TNA and they weren't going anywhere. Like, this is weird because the problem is Spike TV and Destination America all said these same things. We're happy with TNA. We're doing good with TNA publicly. We don't know what's being said behind closed doors, you know. But again, this is not the same kind of channel that the other two channels are. So they might be totally okay with having TNA on for years, and cool for TNA. Glad that they get to exist. Yeah. But again, maybe this India investor will work out for you. That you're going to India to see if, whatever. But like, it just it makes you scratch my head. Like I'm happy for this guy. I'm happy that Pod TV likes him. I'm happy that they realize that people have DVRs and stuff now, and that you don't need the replay, which is true, you don't need it. But if TNA is needing people to give them money every time they do tapings, not good. This TV is obviously not helping them that much, So.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, it might become moot if TNA can't, make money just in general. So.
Exactly. So, we'll keep everybody updated on this. I mean, this is a storyline that we continue to follow, and every once in a while we get some good news, and this is not the best news or anything, but at least it's something positive towards TNA, and we're not talking something negative, right? We'll put it out there. We're going to jump into some rapid hits real quick, guys. So, of course, throw out a topic, and we'll briefly answer what we think about it. Sasha Banks has been away, but why? Well, number one, apparently she has a concussion, and she has to get an impact test done before she is cleared to come back inside the ring. Now, this happened because a ref accidentally kneed her in the head. Wow, that's a freak accident.
Fire that ref.
Yeah, I would assume he would have been fired already, if not already, So, but yeah, bad for her. But hopefully she can get back soon. What do you guys think about this?
God, sucks for Sasha. Fire that ref. That's almost like a ref should not be doing that. That's just wow.
I think maybe Becky Lynch hired her. hired him, whoever it was.
Becky Lynch did it. This sucks. All these freak accidents happening for WWE too much recently. Just hopefully she's okay to come back soon. Hopefully it's not something that keeps her out for a while. But I mean, concussions are what they are. Sometimes it's like Enzo, you're out a month. Sometimes you're out multiple. So, They obviously have plans for it to be Sasha Charlotte at SummerSlam, and at some point she has to be healthy enough to be able to come back and do the program. So, you know.
Kane is thinking about running for political office in Knox County, Tennessee. That's right. He wants to run for mayor. He's actually spoken to the current mayor, who's going to be leaving office in not too long. So when he runs for office, it'll be 2018. And now this all does depend on what happens in this year's presidential election. Thoughts?
I mean, hats off to Kane. This is something I think he's wanted to do for a long time. You keep hearing reports about how politically active this guy is. So good luck to him, you know, and Mayor Kane, that's got a ring to it, you know?
Yeah, Mayor Kane. That would be great. Come out in the mask and the suit on. Can you imagine that?
Coming into city council meetings, setting off the pyro.
Yeah.
I thought that would be during the debate. Someone disagrees with him and he just gets mad and
strikes him with the lightning.
Yeah. Take that, sucker. Yeah, so I'd love to see that. So, but yeah, I mean that's a situation where I hope it does work out for him because he's been into politics for a long time. We were just talking about Sasha Banks earlier, but let's talk about the women's division again. Let's talk about the fact that there's a possibility that we may see a ladder match for the Money in the Bank ladder match for the women's division. Would you be interested?
Interested, yes. I don't know if there's the talent pool there right now. Obviously, wow, words. Becky Lynch, obvious shoe in there, but I don't know who else you really have that could really pull off being a contender. And maybe that's the thing you don't need with Money in the Bank. You don't need obvious contenders, but man, it just it seems like the women's roster is a little thin right now, you know.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. I think this would be one of those much more positive things you want to have equal to the men or whatever. I would totally be for it if you want to do that. I don't think it hurts to do. You do it once, you see how it turns out. If you can really make it compelling and whatever, you do it. If not, it's a one-time thing, and you don't bring it back again.
Yeah, I think so too. It's something where you could say that, it could be a groundbreaking thing. It could be something really help. And I do worry about the fact that the depth on this women's division, at least on the main roster, is not super grand. You may have to, in fact, if you're really considering doing something like this, even throw up some NXT developmental, women's wrestlers just to kind of help out. I think it'd make it exciting though as well, because what if a Nia Jax pops into that match? That would be really interesting. You'd have someone dominant who would come in here and really kind of, hey, I do exist, and if you want to see me, go check out NXT. So I think that could be a positive thing too. So,
what did you? I read this thing with Titus O'Neil where he's asked about if he thinks the suspension is going to affect anything he does with the company. He had some interesting verbiage to that. He said that he has things he wants to do, but if he doesn't get to do them, it's not the biggest deal in the world. So, seems like a guy that, he has goals, but ain't the biggest thing in the world to him if he doesn't get to accomplish all those in WWE. Man, it's so weird to hear people, be much more brave than they used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, certainly I don't think, Titus is tied to wrestling as strongly as you see a lot of other people are. But yeah, that's weird. He seemed to want to be one of those top guys. And maybe he's just disenchanted now after, getting a pretty lame-ass suspension.
Right. Do you think Ryback does... I don't think we joked about it, but do you think Ryback winds up in TNA?
Yes.
That's another one of those guys. TNA would be stupid if you don't try to go get Ryback.
Well, he's definitely going to love the schedule. that'll definitely be something he'll be looking forward to, because of the fact that it's going to be lighter. And maybe they'll be nice to pay for his hotels, That's what he wanted, right? He wanted hotel stays and all sorts of stuff.
Well, you don't need hotel stays because you just live in Florida.
I guess
Right.
does he actually live in Florida, though? He has to relocate.
Oh, I don't think
I
he
know
does.
a fair bit of the WWE roster lives in Florida just because it's easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
It's one of those, like, do you think he could, I could see Lucha Underground being interested.
The great thing about Lucha Underground is they could really bring in anybody if they have a role for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with Ryback, and of course, we already talked about Adam Rose and the fact that Cody Rhodes is the guy that can go anywhere. But the two guys we're really wondering about is Ryback and Rose. So, well, guys, that is quick hits. We've had a lot of fun, a lot of great stuff to talk about. But we are going to move on now, and we are going to talk some New Japan. We're going to talk best of the Super Juniors night 2 and 3 tonight. So we'll be right back with that next, guys.
King of Sport. New Japan Pro Wrestling.
All right. So these are only the Best Super Junior matches because these are uploaded. They actually upload these at like 11 o'clock Eastern time. So like soon as Raw goes off the air, especially for these night 3 ones, I'm having to watch them while at the same time we're watching the Shane McMahon thing. So it wasn't the easiest thing to do. So I apologize if don't remember everything about them or whatever. But the night 2, I didn't think there was anything overly special. Main event, or I guess your main match of Ospreay and Owens was the best one. But I would say it's like good to very good, nothing great between these 4.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch night 3 yet. I did watch night 2. Certainly not up to par with the night 1 show, but I think everything on here is still good to really good. Chase Owens going over Will Ospreay is surprising as hell to me. And maybe that's what they're going for here, but I did not. Chase getting a win at all really just probably should surprise anybody at this point, but over Ospreay is just, that's, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Wow. Like it seems like they're not going the protection route on almost anybody other than maybe O'Reilly for this. Like they're having people lose. And when you go into night 3, if this is anything like the G1, Kushida already has 2 opponents for that title. So, that's gonna be interesting. I mean, like you get, Volador and why can't I think of
Beretta.
Beretta had a pretty good match. At one point, because it's a still camera, so they do have other cameras that they're kind of just set in position. But at one point they go away from into the crowd and you can't see anything that happens until all of a sudden they switch the camera over, and by then like nothing's happening. So it's just a little late on that. I thought it was good. They sort of each had their little comeback moment. Volador did, his. It seems like half of Volador's gimmick is like, how many things am I going to take off during the match? Like he takes off his pants. To get in the tights, he takes off his mask. Like, I don't know. Is that a thing he does, Paul? It's.
I haven't watched CMLL in a while, but I know he lost his mask, so he can't wrestle with it.
Right.
That's a thing. But I mean, he's sort of he's the top guy over there in CMLL, so you know, the larger than life sort of thing I think he's pulling off here is just fits.
Yeah, he does that really well. The other, Ricochet was the Ricochet and Tiger Mask stuff was what you would expect. Tiger Mask basically making sure Ricochet stays grounded, and at the end, it doesn't happen. And Liger and Bobby Fish was good. I thought they took way too long to do that pin, and it took me out of it. Yeah.
I think that's a fair point. Obviously, guys like Liger and Tiger Mask aren't. They're not as young as they used to be, and Liger can certainly still bring it. But it didn't take me out of the match. I thought Bobby Fish and Liger worked a pretty good match, especially Liger doing his best to just be super nasty aggressive with Bobby. I really appreciated. Whereas Tiger Mask is well, like we talked about yesterday in his Night 1 performance, very much just going through the motions. And with a guy like Ricochet, that's like, I can't imagine how frustrating that has to be.
Right, yeah.
But I mean, my pick'em, like, I got one right on this show, Sean. I'm looking like a chump.
I'm looking. What did I? Well, yeah, Chase Owens beating Ospreay. I think had all of us bad. I think I had Liger at one point, and I switched it to Fish. So I would have had 2, but I think I wound up having 1 as well. And on the next show on night 3. They killed it at the beginning already with Bushi getting beat again by Matt Sydal in less than 10 minutes. Bushi did kind of his thing where he acts like he doesn't give a crap. And Sydal did this really sweet like pop-up Rana. And then he also did the shooting star and just beat him. It was just like, wow. You know?
It is a fun sprint, but yeah, like, come on, Bushi.
Yeah, you're making us all look bad here.
Is chopped liver or anything.
Yeah,
but I mean, just you expect. I guess we expected so much more of Bushi. Maybe he's gonna have a late comeback or something like that. But man, this booking is throwing me for a loop. Except for what they're doing with O'Reilly.
Exactly, and I mean, O'Reilly faces Ghetto. He beats Ghetto just like last year. Ghetto basically gave him all he had, put him in the crossface, hit him with the ring hammer, like just everything, and O'Reilly just kind of picked him apart here and there, and then he beat him. So, it was a really fun match, really, really good match. I enjoyed it. Taguchi and Finlay was kind of what it was. Taguchi like dominated for a bit. Finlay had his moments where he did all his uppercuts and stuff. He got that stretch muffler in there. But it's both of them had this thing where they put the muffler in. Taguchi got the ropes really fast. Taguchi got that standing ankle lock in, and Finlay got the ropes real fast. But then Taguchi put in the nasty kneeling ankle lock and freaking bended his foot all the way, almost touching his leg. And it's like, geez, how are you not tapping out to that? Like, just, ouch.
Finlay's a Finlay, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. But Taguchi wins, so he has 4 points. And the biggest surprise, I think, even more than Bushi, is Kushida at the end is 0-2, and he loses to Rocky Romero. So, wow. I mean, this was really good. I really enjoyed this match. Rocky was making sure that Kushida was down. He was trying to knock him down, couldn't let him get in a rhythm. He got in the hoverboard once, but it wasn't like he was really letting Kushida get into that rhythm of working the arm and stuff. And then Rocky just puts him away with the big knee, and it's like, damn. Totally going for the big you think you know what's going to happen. It's not happening that way.
Right. Yeah, because I thought Kushida was going to bounce back here, and that is not the case. And I'm totally okay with Romero getting a win over Kushida personally. Romero getting another crack at the singles championship with Kushida should be a fun match.
Yeah, agreed. And now this is certainly interesting going into night 4, which we have 2 more days of this going straight off. So you're going to have night 4 at 11 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday night, and then Wednesday night at the same time you'll get night 5. Then they'll take a break for Thursday night, and then Friday morning will be the next live show. That's the one that has Ricochet and Ospreay, which should be freaking awesome. But yeah, just lots to look forward to now going into these next set of shows after what's happened here.
Definitely. So that's great. And of course, like Sean said, look forward to future episodes where we get down and dirty with this next group of shows coming out your way. We're looking forward to it. Well, guys, I mean, that pretty much rounds out our show. We've had a pretty awesome one so far. And, of course, if you want to check out more of us, we'll be back on Thursday night live. And if you're going to catch us on the download, Friday morning, we will be there ready for you to come check us out and find out everything that we have when it comes to some quick hits, the big news topics of this week. Plus, we're going to talk some NXT, TNA, Lucha Underground, and a lot of other great stuff. So you don't want to miss any of that. We're really looking forward to doing that show as well, coming up here soon. Also, just always remember, rate and review. I just want to say I appreciate everyone who's already done that. I was just reading some reviews today, and I want to say thank you to everybody who's done it. It means a lot to us, and it just kind of helps people realize that, hey, this is the kind of show that you may enjoy, or give some reasons why they should come check us out. We appreciate any of that. It always helps. Also, subscribe to the W2M Network if you're not already subscribed. It always will help you because, it's always on the download. Everything comes to you. You don't have to go search it out. So besides that, Sean, anything you want to kind of mention before we get out of here?
No. Should have football to the max here for you guys pretty quick. And video game show should be tomorrow night or Wednesday morning, whatever, for you guys there on the download, as long as everything goes according to plan. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we got some great stuff coming your way. Like I said, don't forget to go check out the W2M Network, all the different shows that are coming out. They're all really fun to listen to, and, of course, that football show is going to be fun, too. So, all right, guys. Well, it's been fun. We'll catch everybody on Thursday, and just always remember, if you're not living life to the max,
not living life at all,
you know it.
Peace.
Later.